Video today, I'm going to be sharing with you case study number 4, treating parasites and recovering from multiple sclerosis. And I am so excited to share this with you because you are going to step into the journey of one of our current wellness champion students who is recovering from multiple sclerosis, recovering from a parasitic infestation. And I'm going to share with you her health history, the symptoms, her diagnosis, her journey, what she's been doing over the past 3 months, parasites that she's been, like what she's been using for treating, the parasites she's been passing, and the miraculous symptom improvements that she is thoroughly enjoying. So, this is so important to share with doctors, share with healthcare professionals, share with groups. It really helps us to create an awareness of what's going on in our bodies when we're diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, but other chronic diseases also. So I would love for you to just share your comments, just type your comments in the comment, your questions also. I will be answering them. Say hello. And again, please, if you enjoy this work that I'm doing, if you're finding it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe so that you don't miss these trainings and that you are able to help us get the word out. So I'm going to head over to some slides. I have made some amazing slides for you. That way you can really kind of stay more engaged with because she's been doing a lot. All right, so this is a current student who is in the Live Disease Free Academy. She lives in the United States. I'm just going to make sure that you guys can hear me. Just say hello if you can hear me. I know that there is a bit of a time lag. Let me just double check here. Just want to do a real quick check. I'll just take 1 second. Perfect. Okay. So back to the amazing slides. So this is a current student that is in the Live Disease Free Academy. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I'm just going to share her health history first. So she's 43 years young, and before multiple sclerosis, before her diagnosis, her symptoms started in 2010. So she has had MS for a few years. And she was a high achiever. A lot of us that end up with chronic disease, these parasitic infestations, we are high achievers. So she was very, very active. She worked 3 jobs. She played a ton of sports. She was very social, started getting symptoms in 2010. And then by 2011, she received a multiple sclerosis diagnosis. And she found me this year. So this is really fresh and current. She right now is on her journey recovering from MS. And it's just amazing what people can do in 3 months. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is she's provided so many wonderful, clear updates. She's a very good implementer, and she shared a lot of pictures of the parasites that she's passing. You'll find this absolutely fascinating. So again, in 2023, that's when she found us, just like in February. And at that time, like the MS very often progresses from relapsing remitting to secondary progressive. So she was dealing, at this time, her MS was secondary progressive. She also was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and skin lupus. Symptoms that she had were fatigue, foggy head, poor memory, pain, balance, spasticity, weakness in legs, bladder issues, and her mobility, it was impacted. She was using a walker. And the medications that she was taking and supplements and things that she's tried in the past, so this was before she started the program, so she did have pain, so she was using pain medication, anti-inflammatory medication, Mavenclad, which is an MS drug, and there's also sertraline and tizanidine, and one drug that we call Ampera, or this called different names, but it's the walking drug for MS. And also she was on the Dr. Terry Wall's protocol for a period of time. I don't know how long, but she had been on Dr. Terry Well's protocol. And with all the things that she had done, she did not notice symptom improvements. Just a sec here, I touched something which I should not have done. Just one sec here. Let's see, how am I going to, there, like that. There we go. So she tried the Well's protocol, worked with a chiropractor, worked with a naturopath, did water aerobics, but nothing really made a difference in her MS symptoms. Like, she was still progressing, and again, started with relapsing remitting, and it progressed to secondary progressive MS. So February 1st, she joined this year, just short of 3 months ago. And of course, our students always start with the Live Disease-Free diet. And the purpose of the Live Disease-Free diet is to decrease the carbs, to decrease them low enough so that the parasites are not as active. And then we notice that the immune system doesn't have to fight as hard, and we end up having a lot of symptom improvements. So that can happen in as little as 1 to 2 weeks. And so she's very typical of somebody who implements well. They notice symptom improvements like by the 13th already. This was her update that she gave me. So, and they're still learning the diet. So in the first week or two, they don't have it perfected because they've just joined the program. Sometimes they find our work early. They find the Live Disease-Free guidelines online and they start implementing, but it's not perfect, but it still helps a lot. So within the first 13 days, she said, I have noticed better sleep. My legs don't cramp in the middle of the night, and I can go back to sleep much more easily than I used to. And so I'm not as tired during the day, or when I wake up, I have more energy to get more things done around the house. And these improvements are very exciting to me, and I'm very grateful and hopeful. So we don't have to wait until we start treating the parasites. The Live Disease-Free diet can start to give us symptom improvements within a week to 2 weeks. Next, on February the 20th, she gave me an update, and here she was following the Live Disease-Free diet, improving her implementation of it, and she was enjoying it. So sometimes when our students join, they might not like vegetables and they don't eat vegetables. And it takes a little bit, maybe a week or so, to kind of get over the sugar cravings and to start to appreciate flavors like all the different herbs and spices. And we don't have to make it spicy, but things like, ginger and garlic and thyme and rosemary, going to really healthy cilantro. But we can spice up our foods so that they taste really awesome, but it's not feeding the infections. So, and then getting used to eating more vegetables. And I should mention here that if a student has inflammatory bowel, or if they just find that they don't tolerate vegetables well, they eat the vegetables that agree with them and they are cooking them until their gut starts to heal. So it's fine if you don't tolerate raw vegetables. You do not have to eat raw vegetables. You can steam, saute, stir fry, oven roast your vegetables until the inflammation goes down so much that you can actually bring in more raw vegetables. So she had her menses, her periods, and with our students that are still, pre-menopause, what they'll notice is that the week before their menses, they get all of these PMS symptoms, and we have been told and we thought that it was our hormones, but actually the parasites are so much more active the week before our menses. So she's like, whoa, I didn't have any signs or symptoms. So that's the diet working. The parasites are not, they're still getting sugar because our body will still maintain blood sugar levels that will keep us alive, but they're not getting they make you crave carbs, and they're not getting the binging of the carbs. So she noticed that she had her periods and she didn't have any symptoms, no cravings, no cramps. And she said, I have more feeling in my right leg. And she was only having bowel movements every second day at that time. Some of our students have severe constipation, some moderate constipation. This is all caused by the parasites. And so she ordered some of the supplements we recommend, something like Oxy powder by the company Global Health works really well for most people. Or there's extra strength vitality capsules that work well if somebody has severe constipation. So she did order some supplements. I believe it was just Oxy powder. You'll see in a little bit here. But once she has started having all of these symptom improvements, then she could start to introduce things like raw garlic chopped up on a spoon. So you chop it up, you put it on a spoon, you start eating your meal, and then you can put the garlic in your mouth, swish it down with water. You don't have to chew it, and then finish eating your meal. So you're literally sandwiching the garlic in between your food so it doesn't burn your esophagus or your stomach. And students will start with small amounts, start with a half a teaspoon or a quarter teaspoon, right? Don't go gangbusters. You don't want to poke the bear. You don't want to get the parasites too upset with you. So starting with smaller amounts and working your way up. Some of our students have worked up to a tablespoon with a meal 2 or 3 times a day. But listen to your body. Maybe you're like, no, a teaspoon is enough. That's fine. So she was starting to bring in raw garlic, and raw garlic is like you can buy supplements for garlic, but the raw garlic is so much more medicinal when it's chopped up. And just do it for a week or two. Like, don't do it for long periods of time. It's a hot, spicy herb. So just listen to your body, right? And so she introduced the raw chopped garlic with meals, and she started to reach out to a practitioner to be energy tested to see which of the treatments, the parasite treatments, will test the best for her. She did lose some weight. It's easy to lose weight on the Live Disease-Free diet. You don't have to. You have to make sure you eat enough calories, but it's a very satisfying diet. So if you just eat until you're satisfied and you're like, oh, I don't need this snack because I'm not hungry, you could lose weight. So she lost weight, but it was welcomed. It was nothing that she was like, she didn't join the program to lose weight, but she said, I needed to lose the weight. So it was good that I lost the weight. And she was able to have her blood pressure return to normal. So this is on the 20th. This is like in 20 days, getting your blood pressure back to normal. Some people are on medications for years and years and years, and it never goes down. So then she also had an appointment with her, I believe it's a neurologist, that would be an MS doctor, for a 6-month checkup. And the doctor reported that she is stronger, and she felt stronger than she had been in a while. And then she was able to discontinue one of her medications at night because she didn't need it. So our students, they work with their pharmacist and their doctor, and they find out the safest way to come off medication when they are feeling better and they no longer need the meds. So she no longer needed it. She was able to fall asleep and stay asleep. And if she had to get up to go to the bathroom, she was able to fall back asleep, no problem. But her bladder was not improving yet. And that was not common because most of our students find within the first week or two that going low carb, their bladder improves tremendously. That's one of the first things that improve. But the one drug that she was taking, that Ampera drug, that is supposed to help MS with like walking, I don't know if it does or not, but it is really hard on the bladder. So sometimes the medications that we're taking can cause some of the adverse effects that we're dealing with. So that was interesting. And she shared, I'm very excited about this journey. I talk about this program all the time with anyone who will listen. And I've shown my friends the pictures of the parasites from the students. And if that doesn't make you a believer, I don't know what will. I can honestly hardly wait until I take pictures of my own parasites. I left that in there because, like, just a short while later, she is taking pictures of the parasites. She said, I know that sounds weird, but I am excited. So this is her, the next slide. On the 23rd of February, she sent in her infection survey. So this is a PDF. It's about 14 pages long where students they'll track, or not track, but they're going to report past and current symptoms that they've had. So there are very specific symptoms for fungal infections and specific symptoms for the Lyme infections and specific symptoms for other types of parasites like worms, for example. And so in her health history, she had symptoms of allergies and dandruff and fingernail and toenail fungus. Those are definitely symptoms of fungi. And then she also had different Lyme infection symptoms, the vector borne infections associated with Lyme disease. So she had joint pain and joint stiffness, word finding problems, fatigue, headache, tinnitus, neuropathic pain, buzzing at the bottom of her feet, sensitivity to sound, low frustration tolerance, low libido, numbness, weakness, muscle weakness, cognitive impairment, chronic fatigue, lack of endurance, menstrual irregularity or disorder, and OCD behavior and anxiety. And then other symptoms she also had was constipation, gas, bloating. These are other parasite symptoms: chronic fatigue, swollen, achy joints, backache, muscle, joint pain, lower back pain, thinning of hair, brain fog, cysts, rashes, general weakness, poor coordination, loss of balance, and spastic gait. So my heart goes out to my students. They have suffered for so many years. They have such a wide range of different types of symptoms. It's just brutal. So February 23rd, she's continuing to, what our students will do is they're working on the diet, they're perfecting the diet, getting the carbs low enough, they're working on having daily bowel movements. They're also making sure that if they need to take a supplement to sleep 8 hours per night. Some of them have to change their nighttime habits. Instead of being a night hawk, they're going to bed earlier. They're getting a few hours of sleep before midnight. So, with all of these things that she's doing, and this is called the prep phase, they're getting ready to treat. She reported an update on the 23rd of February that she now was having daily bowel movements, and we want to have daily bowel movements before we start passing these parasites. We don't want them to die and live in us or stay in us for a day or two or three or a week. And she said, I also have a lot more energy. I was able to let the dogs out, feed them, vacuum the rug, cook and clean up the kitchen, do some laundry, straighten up the dining area, and take out the trash all in one morning. I have more movement in my right ankle. It's still stiff, but I can move it around more easily now. My right hand, which was affected by the multiple sclerosis, it is not as tight as it used to be. It doesn't shake, so the tremor has stopped, and it's stronger than it has been in a long time. My core is loose in a good way. I can bend over better than I have in a long time. My muscle structure is very tight on top of having MS. So it's a huge thing for me to be able to bend at the waist and not hurt my lower back. So these are all signs of inflammation decreasing in her body. And remember that inflammation is the body's response to fighting parasites. So our body, it's like a war. Our immune cells, our B cells, our T cells, and other cells, they are the soldiers, and they are fighting the parasites. And what's the result of this war? It is inflammation, and that's what inflammation is. The 23rd, this continued her update. She's really good at detailing what she was doing and how she was feeling. She's looking for a biological dentist. So our students will deal with hidden dental infections, not right away, but they will start looking for a biological dentist. They won't get rid of the amalgam fillings until they're feeling a little stronger. They're not going to deal with the cavitation. Let's say if you have pockets of infection in your jaw or maybe in a root canal, they won't deal with that until they're starting to feel a lot better. But she found a biological dentist. And so we don't recommend a lot of supplements because we have found that a lot of them just makes expensive urine. So a multivitamin mineral from plants is great. Vitamin C is fine. She's taking the oxy powder to help her bowels move. She won't need to use that forever, but just to get the bowels moving every day. She had the bladder issues. Remember, she had a lot of bladder issues. So Cystis T is really antimicrobial properties. It also helps to break up biofilms that are notorious from Lyme and other microbes. and she was using Candida Stop. It's not that this is a magic Candida Stop, it's just a nice blend of antimicrobial herbs. You might not find it in your area, but again, we don't start with these antimicrobial herbs until you're feeling a lot better. It's very important to feel better, like support immune modulation before we start treating. And again, the Candida Stop is a little bit more for Candida, which is yeast. It will help against certain bad bacteria, but it's not going to be enough on its own to recover. So she's getting ready to treat, right? So when we're at this place, is she's going to find a person to do energy testing. She's going to get samples from her practitioner. She's going to get energy tested and then get prescriptions and be treated properly. And you're going to hear all of that. So she said, I'm going to purchase a multivitamin mineral supplement. We have a few that we recommend. They're, it doesn't matter to us which one, but it should be from plants. And it's hard. We teach our students how to read labels because there are a lot of supplements that sound really good, like they're plant source, but they are not really helpful. And so she said, I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of this. At first, I wanted to rush to get straight to the treatment. I'm so glad that I haven't started yet. I want to make sure that I get it right and I don't rush my body and that I fully understand what you are teaching. And I'm so grateful for all you do I'm so grateful to you for all of this. I don't think I can say that enough. All right, so next, March the 7th update. I'm continuing to have more feeling in my right leg. My right hip is also becoming more loose, which is helping my gait. And she said my core body muscle structure is loosening up and working better together more cohesively. It's a nice and unusual feeling for me. And still sleeping very well, now sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night. And I say to my students, like, once you can start sleeping again, if your body needs 10 hours of sleep, if you can take it, take it. If you have to go to bed a little earlier so you can get the 8 or 10 hours, sometimes we have been sleep deprived for years and our body is just trying to get caught up. So she said, one night this week, I slept until 6:15 a.m. without getting up to go to the bathroom. It's been years. Slowly decreasing another one for medication. She still was taking the walking medication and the other one. And she said, I hope to be off the other two soon. She's taking Candida Stop, which is just an antimicrobial blend of herbs, but she's getting ready to treat with the other parasite drugs. And chlorella is, if you tolerate chlorella, it's a really great binder of fungal toxins and mercury and possibly other metals, but for sure mercury has a lot of nutrients, minerals, alkaline. It's really healthy. And that is if you tolerate it. Most people do. And again, she's taking cistus tea, drinking cistus tea. It's a very pleasant tea. It really helps with bladder issues. And she said, I have less urgency this past week, and that excites me. So I think it's a combination between her, taking the cistus tea, but also maybe decreasing that medication that's so hard on the bladder. That is one of the adverse effects of that medication. Then on March the 7th, continued. So this is where she ordered the oxidizing agent, and many of you have heard me talking about it. I can't say the name of it here because it's so heavily censored, but I do have a video on Rumble and even on our website. If you go there, you can see I'm using oxygen therapies to treat parasites. You'll learn about it there. If you're on our list, you definitely get information about it too. So make sure that you are connected with me. Go to my website, opt in to watch my masterclass training, put your name and email, and then you'll be in touch because we release an amazing newsletter every week with really cutting edge resources and information about how to treat parasites effectively. So because she's fairly disabled, she would have a harder time doing enemas. And so she ordered a Kalima board, which she could lay on. So like some of our students that are still quite mobile, they can just, get down on their hands and knees, thumb in the air and do an enema and lay on their side. But for people that are more disabled, then the Kalima board can be helpful. She ordered berberine. She tested well for that, and also camu camu. And she was working on her 30, 60, and 90-day goals and 6-month goals in the Live Disease Free Academy. And I just put this in because I thought it was so beautiful. God told me a long time ago that He was going to heal me. So she was getting her prayers answered, which is so amazing. March the 13th update. So again, still following the Live Disease-Free diet with excellence, taking a plant-sourced multivitamin mineral. That's just to fill in the gaps of the nutrients that's missing from our food. And she was on taking berberine and candida stop, and the vitamin C, it's camu camu. That's a type of berry. It's very high, but it's not sweet. It's a very tart, very high in vitamin C. Oxy powder for daily bowel movements. She was taking an antihistamine, chlorella, and let me just see behind, and an iron supplement. And so students would only take an iron supplement if their iron is a little bit low, and that's very common. So in the prep phase, we are looking at our blood work, and if our blood iron is a little low, if our thyroid is low, we want to support those areas because that helps us to heal more quickly. All right, and then she was starting the juniper tincture. So for bladder issues, there is UTI drops, which are it's juniper extract that can be really helpful. Cranberry capsules can be helpful. The cistus tea, drinking 4 to 6 cups per day, can be really helpful. And so she was introducing all of those things and then continuing to slowly decreasing her prescription medication. So she's working her way off of those, connected with a biological dentist, booked an appointment to be energy tested, and she ordered an enema bag and also reviewed her blood work results. It's very important for us to, get our basic blood work done, nothing too expensive or fancy, but just to make sure that we are supporting the areas of our body that need it. And we do want to check liver and kidney function to make sure that maybe there's some medications we've been on that have impacted our liver. We want a good snapshot of what we're starting with. So March the 19th update, she started taking the oxidizing agent, both orally and through enema. So oxidation is like, it's bringing oxygen into the body. So when we're taking the oxidizing agent orally, then that is helping to bring oxygen into our blood. We do know that the parasites some of them are in our blood, so that helps to treat our blood. It also will benefit other parts of the body, but most strongly in our blood. And then she was also doing the oxidizing enemas. And that, what we have found is that it's absolutely amazing. People feel so much better. This is how you're going to see all the pictures. Well, most of them. There was a couple she did without enemas, but most of them she did with enemas. So she said, I am still sleeping well. I can stand a lot longer than I have been able to in a long time, like hours. And I still need something to lean against, but I can stand and I love it. I have more feeling in the toes in my right foot, which is the foot that is affected from the MS or by the MS. I have also noticed that I get an energy burst at night, usually around 7 to 8 p.m. most nights. I almost walk around without even thinking about it. And when I put my head down, I get this electric shock down my spine. I still have that electric shock, but it is not as intense. So that has decreased also. And she said, I think this is a very good thing. And this is very exciting to me. So that is improving also. March the 22nd update. So she was energy tested that day. And, this is a dilemma that we have. We don't have good stool tests for these parasites at this time. You can go and do different stool tests, and it might show certain anaerobic bacteria. It might show certain small protist parasites, but it really misses the parasites that are making us sick. It's not going to pick up parasites in the central nervous system, and it will usually miss the parasites even in the intestine. So we use energy testing, and that is not an exact science, and it is helpful if we have the right practitioner, but this is the best thing that we have, and we have been using it as one clue. We don't go solely based on energy testing. We look at our health history, we look at our history of our parents, we look at our symptoms and our diagnoses, and we also consider the energy test results. So I wanted to share her experience because if she would not have been working with us, she would have been very confused and she wouldn't have moved forward, and then she would not be where she's at today. So she went to this energy tester, and this is quite new. And I really appreciate the people that are willing to energy test, because they're like, they don't know what they're energy testing, and they shouldn't know. They should be completely blind to it. They should be like, okay, this one, yes, it's making you stronger, balancing you. No, not that one. Yes, this one. But who cares what it is, right? That's how it should be. So she did energy test my student, and the problem is, a lot of practitioners, they have their own supplements that they really feel are important. And so she energy tested my student on her supplements, and she said, oh, you need to take all these supplements. They're really good for you. And then my student said, I wanted to run this by Pam first. And I checked, and I'm like, honestly, they're not going to really make a difference. I'm aware of those supplements. You can take them if you want to, but they're really not going to make a big difference. So the crazy thing is that this energy tester, she's like, the only treatments that you test well for are tinidazole and fluconazole. So tinidazole is a parasite drug. It's more like an antibiotic parasite drug. And ketoconazole is a fungal drug. But then she's like, the other treatments don't test well for you. But she said, you do have a large worm, a big parasite that you need to address right away, but none of the treatments are testing well for you. It's like, well, that's really helpful. So the things that did not test well for her at that first meeting, and again, maybe she just, I'm not sure why, but anyhow, it was ivermectin, fluconazole, albendazole, praziquantel, prentopamoate, mebendazole, itraconazole, and hydroxychloroquine. Those are the treatments that she had samples from, and she got energy tested, and the practitioner said, no, none of them, but you do have a big parasite and you need to get it, you need to deal with it. Okay, so that's kind of weird. So then so the student corresponded with me and says, what do I do? And I said, that just doesn't even make sense. So she went back to that practitioner, and she was re-energy tested, and she was a little bit more firm and clear with the practitioner, saying, I really appreciate that you're willing to energy test me. I'm not interested in any more supplements. I'm taking all the basic things that I need to take right now. Will you please just energy test the treatments? And so she did. And she found that she tested well for praziquantel, tinidazole, itraconazole, ivermectin, and ketoconazole. So it's very common that our students test well for 3 to 5 parasite drugs at a time. They don't take them all at the same time, but they do test well for them. And remember that a parasite is any microbe that lives in you and causes you harm. So fungi can live in you, cause you harm, protists, bacteria, worms. And so the ketoconazole and itraconazole, those are 2 fungal treatments. The praziquantel is something that treats more of the flat worms, I should say. And tinidazole will treat some of the smaller protists, for example, and ivermectin is a little bit more of a roundworm treatment. So this is consistent with what we see, is that our students have dysbiosis. The sicker we are, the more out of balance. And so we will have different types of parasites in us. So she has not been able to, the student has not been able to identify which parasite she has, but she is kind of like, and it's not just these energy test results. We've worked with hundreds of students, so we do see similarities, and we see patterns of what students test well for when they have certain conditions. So it's not a cookie cutter approach yet. We're working on it. I don't know if we ever will, because you could have different parasites impacting the same part of the brain, causing inflammation in the same part of the brain, and they would need different treatments. So that's our dilemma. So anyhow, so that's what she went with. She went with this. So this is not inconsistent with what we see in the students. And so this is what she started with. So now for some exciting pictures. All right, so this is April the 10th, just like 3 weeks ago, roughly. And so these are going to be a couple of different pictures of parasites that she passed. So the first day, like our students will introduce one of the parasite drugs, but we're working up to the effective doses. So she started with one, and day 2 she was still on the first one, and she noticed that she passed. Um, I should mention here too that here are the pictures from my first 2 days of bowel movements with no enemas. So that's important to know. And then later she is doing enemas. So I did an enema after my bowel movement on day 2, and I got some more small worms. So this is what she passed with no enema, but just using the parasite drugs. And so this is one of them. And so you can see, and it's hard to know if, like, sometimes when you're like, she would have probably had to pull it out of her stool, then maybe they got torn, ripped apart, but definitely a section of a worm. And then you can see in this picture here that she definitely also has another segment of a worm, but I am sure, and it's pretty easy to tell food from small worms. So those could be very small thread worms, or I'm not sure how big pinworms are, but they would be a smaller roundworm. You can see many of them. And then she did a close-up image here that you can see. So I don't know for sure, but I would suspect that some of these smaller ones are small roundworms. They definitely look like they could be, but the larger ones are definitely segments of larger worms. So then on April the 16th update, so now she's been treating for the first 7 days of treatment, and she tested well for, I believe it was ivermectin and praziquantel and tinidazole, so that's what she was taking. And so she shared, my right leg is stronger, my gait is getting better, I'm standing up straighter, and I'm moving faster with my walker and with less effort. I was able to be outside in the sun for hours on Saturday, and I could handle it. That's amazing. I have way more energy. Multiple people from church have commented on how much better I am moving around over the past few weeks. I am sleeping even better at night, which I didn't think was possible. I am having more control over my bladder, which is so nice. And I am continuing to follow the eating plan with excellence and loving it. So that's an important key. When we start treating, we don't start to increase the carbs because the treatments don't work as well. We've had a couple of students test that out for us, and it's like, that was not worth it, Pam. That was awful. So the parasite drugs we're using, they're helpful, but they are not a magic cure. If they were, I would write a book and we would cure the world. It's not. So this is where we're at right now, is that the keeping the carbs low is incredibly helpful. But this diet, you're not like suffering with it. You can eat whenever you want. It's very tasty, it's very fresh. And like this student said, she's really enjoying the diet. It's not like a restrictive diet. Yes, restrictive for sugar, but you get over that pretty quickly. So I'm so excited about all of this, and I can't wait to continue in this process. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so these are the first 7 days of parasite treatment, like what she's been passing in the first 7 days of using, working her way up into using the praziquantel and ivermectin and also the tinidazole. And I'll move myself out of the way here. Hopefully that you guys can see that better. Pretty fascinating. Again, segments of worms. And again, I don't know if they're segments of roundworms or flatworms. I do know that praziquantel will treat more flatworms and ivermectin will treat more roundworms, and the oxidizing enemas will treat anything in its path. And so it's really exciting to see this coming out of her. And this is why she's having so many symptom improvements. I'll move myself out of the way here. That's quite a large one there. And, I would have to zoom in on it. Like, part of it looks almost quite flat, but it could be a roundworm, but it could be a part of a tapeworm. And by Dr. Alan McDonald's observations, finding the immature tapeworm cysts in the central nervous system of every MS patient that he or subject that he studied, it's very easy that we could have tapeworms also. And then, so this is going to be treatment of day, I don't know where to move myself. I'll have to move myself here. So April the 23rd. So this is treating day 8 to 14. So she said, I finished up with the 14 days of the praziquantel, ivermectin, and tinidazole. So remember that this presentation is for educational purposes only. I don't know that these treatments will test well for you. It's just like if you have some kind of a bacterial infection, you don't just take any antibiotic. You have to use something that works for you. But I'm hoping to give you some clarity that there is a proven plan, there is a step-by-step way to recover, and what the experience is of somebody on that journey right now. So now she's starting to treat fungus. So we will normally treat the parasites for 14 days, the bigger worms and protists, and then we will treat fungus for about 10 days, and then we take a break week. And that break week, if our students have a lot of fungal histories like candida or mold, they might use some herbs and using the oxidizing agent that are more geared towards fungi. If they have a lot of history of the Lyme infections, maybe they had a positive test in the past, they have tons of symptoms of Lyme, then during their break week, they will use the oxidizing agent and they'll use like a liposomal blend of herbs that are more geared towards Lyme. So they're still treating, they're just kind of mixing it up a bit and using small. And I think that's a good thing to do too, because when we pass the large worms, they release the parasites that live in them, the bacteria, the small protists, and also different bacteria and Lyme, for example, the Lyme co-infections. So this is why it's so helpful to use some of the herbs after. They work really well for that. So she shared my progress. I'm holding my bladder and I'm able to make it to the bathroom, to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night before I could make it to the porta potty beside my bed, but not all the way to the bathroom. And I am so excited about this. I have so much more energy. I hosted a party at my house last night, had 10 people over. I cooked the entire meal throughout the week, and we all had a blast sitting around, talking and eating. Those are things I haven't done in years. And I'm gaining muscle in my legs that I haven't felt or used in a long time. My lower back is continuing to get stronger, and my ability to bend at the core is still improving. And I drove to a certain town and back, 4.5-hour round trip from my home, and I wasn't stiff or sore after, which is a big improvement. So that is so huge. This is what she's done in less than 3 months. And she has been sick since, 2000, symptoms started in 2010. Absolutely amazing. So I'm just going to share a few more pictures of, what she's passed in day 8 to day 14. So here's another image of what she shared. They may not be in the correct order. I had to scramble to put this all together just before the presentation. And here's another one picture that she shares. So each picture is what she would have passed on a separate day with using the enemas. So like if you do an enema one morning and the next morning you do an enema, then you pass parasites. And so this is what she would have passed on one day. The picture before was on a different day. This was on another day that she was able to find, and another one, and a few more little ones. So, some of it looks like it could possibly be food, like one in the middle there, I would think is food, possibly, but it doesn't really matter, right? What matters is she is getting her life back and she's getting her health back. And who knows, like maybe those big worms cause some of her symptoms, but maybe she's getting rid of other parasites that she can't even see in her intestines. That is what's helping her mobility even more. Like we don't know, we don't care. I mean, it would be nice if we could find a cookie cutter plan for everyone that had a certain disease, but what's really important is that it's not that hard to figure out if you have the right support. And it can happen pretty quickly. It can happen really quickly. That's it for the pictures. Oh no, there's one more here. Again, there could be some little pieces that are food. It's hard to say, but definitely some of them could definitely be little roundworms. But the large parasites definitely were worms. All right, I'm going to go back to here. Awesome. So a couple minutes to go over your questions. Hello, hello, hello. All right, so a couple of questions here. So Donna, your neurologist said that we get MS because of a virus like kissing disease. Yeah. I did a video, Donna, which you can look at. I think it's just even on our, if you do Epstein-Barr, EBV, live disease-free, you'll find it on our website. But the research that's linking MS to a virus is so weak. It is so incredibly weak. And the reason they're trying to do that is because they would like to create a vaccine, right? And that is not the answer. So you can see by this student, and I shared, if you're new to this, Donna, make sure to watch my other video from last week. I shared a whole bunch of, and that they weren't even these pictures. None of these pictures I shared last week. But our students have a lot of large roundworms. Our students have intestinal flukes very commonly. There is over 100 years of connection between MS and Lyme disease. There's also over 100-year connection of MS with a malaria-type protist like Babesia. So there is, and fungus. Like when I was first diagnosed with MS, there were several doctors that were really decreasing Candida, for example, and having a lot of symptom improvements. But it's hard to know, like, yes, we're knocking back Candida, but a lot of the herbs that knock back Candida, they can also knock back Lyme infections, etc. So who cares, right? As long as we do know that fungus should be knocked back if you have fungal overgrowth too. Hello, Debbie. Hi, David. Hi, Lee. My pictures were not visible? What? I hope they were. It said that they were. If my pictures were not visible, I will make sure, like, what we do is we'll do a blog post for Friday for this week at the end of the week. And in that blog post, I'll make sure all the images are visible. And sorry, it looked like on my end that it was definitely showing. Let me know if anyone else didn't see it. Let me see. Did anybody see? Oh, good. So other people saw the pictures, so you might need to listen to the replay. Awesome. Those are quite interesting pictures, right? Lisa's wondering how to get energy tested in Austin, Texas. You're just looking for a naturopathic physician that can do energy testing, or it could be a chiropractor that does some type of applied kinesiology. Naturopaths, sometimes they have machines, or they'll just do muscle testing. But one of those type of practitioners. But you have to bring samples in because they usually will not have samples of the treatments. Great. And then Peter, how can we be sure that we are not simply from the lubricant ducts or the end of the small intestine? Well, Peter, I think what you need to do is that you need to look at the pictures that I have shared. I totally get your skepticism, totally, absolutely. But the thing is that when you see, like for myself, I've worked with hundreds of students, and when you see these very, like, worms are very characteristic, roundworms. They're like a couple of millimeters wide usually. I mean, some of them can be up to the size of a pencil. We haven't seen them that thick, but they're long and skinny. And if you look on my blog post from last week on the video of it, I shared a video where one of our students is like picking it up and shaking it. Like it doesn't fall apart like mucus. And yes, there is biofilm and there is mucus And that's very different than the segments of the worms. So the segments of the worms, even though somebody's had done an enema where they've killed the worm, and then they are not releasing it until, let's say, 24 hours later, and they're just doing that because of time. They don't have time to spend all their time in the toilet in the bathroom. But even with the body partially digesting, those worms are still holding together. So I don't know if you've seen the video last week. I have a video where you can actually, like the student is actually showing like it's holding together. So mucus, and I've passed worms too. Mucus is, it falls apart. It's not going to hold together. But that's a really good question. And another thing that I've noticed too is that the students, like they might do enemas before, they might or they might not see a lot of parasites, but it's once they start taking the parasite drugs, that's when the parasites start to come out because a lot of them are living in the small intestine and they're not moving from there and you can't reach them with enemas. Hi, Maggie. Yeah, so raw garlic, again, you have to make sure that start slowly because for some people, starting with a lot of raw garlic, it can, with everything, like you don't want to have a Herx reaction. Usually, Herx reaction is if you're doing something that is not really directly effective for a certain parasite that's causing a lot of grief, but it aggravates it and then you feel worse. Or if you are treating too quickly and you're having, like, your body's not able to clean up the mess quick enough, you could have a Herx reaction. So, whenever, like, our golden rule in the Live Disease Free plan is that it doesn't matter if it's herbs or if it's the oxidizing agent or if it's parasite drugs. If something's ever too strong, you stop and you let it settle down. It takes 1 to 3 days, and then you might have to go a little bit more slowly. And what we have noticed is that when you do all the prep work, like this student has done, like getting the carbs down, feeling a lot better, getting daily bowel movements, sleeping well at night, when you're doing all those things first, then we tolerate the treatments a lot better. We've been doing this for 10 years. I have to look at our 10th year anniversary, but it's like either this year or next year is our 10th year as far as being in a structured large group where we're working with students from all over the world. So we know it works. Back in the day, we were not going as low carb. We did not do as much prep work, and some of our students would start with like single herbs at half the bottle doses and rotate them because they were too strong. But now they can, like this student who's, dealing with a lot of disability from the MS, she could tolerate a blend of herbs like Candida stop. And again, that's just one blend of herbs. There's others, but that was just available for her and she could tolerate it. And that is because she did all the prep work first. Really important. And that is why she's improving so quickly. If we were just to go and get energy tested and start treating, you could, and you start with, 3 to 5 parasite drugs, you would be flatlined on the couch. You would feel absolutely horrible because the parasites are making us weak. They're producing a lot of toxins. Our immune system is overwhelmed with them. And then you start to treat them when you're feeding them. It just is not a good recipe. And then, too, some of us are using immunosuppressive drugs. And I was just talking to a professor from a local university in Canada, and he was like, like he's quite interested in what we're doing. And I'm hoping that we can get, some practitioner, like we would like to get some clinical trials going. There's just no money in treating parasites, so I'm not sure if you guys have a great idea to entice these people to do the studies. But I mean, we have the groups, we have very compliant students, but we need, to pay for the time of practitioners or researchers to be involved with it. But he himself said, boy, if you're dealing with a parasitic infestation and you're using immunosuppressive drugs, that's a recipe for disaster. And that's what Dr. Alan McDonald has said too. And so this is something that we have to consider. Wondering if you buy fresh minced garlic and you use that in a week, does that work? Honestly, the raw garlic is the most medicinal. Whenever it's been, you know, processed in any way, or it's been, even in a jar in oil, it's not going to be as medicinal. So you can, like back in the day when I was first diagnosed with MS, in the years I was first diagnosed, I did buy processed garlic, and the company was called Kyolic, and they had liquid garlic, fermented garlic, and they had capsules. And you might find a little bit of benefit from it, but the raw garlic is like and the next level. It's really, really helpful, but start with small amounts. And like I said, do the diet first. I've got all the Live Disease Free diet guidelines online. You can start, just do a Google search for Live Disease Free diet guidelines. You'll find them. There's a little cheat sheet you can put in your kitchen. There's a short 2 or 3 minute video. There's also playlists on YouTube and on Facebook where I talk about the diet, what I eat for meals. Start to change your diet. But when you get to the place where you're like, Pam, I get it. Like, and I've noticed symptom improvements. I'm really having a hard time finding somebody to help me with treating. I don't know what I'm doing and I want to get my life back. Then make sure to watch my masterclass training where I talk about all the steps in the Live Disease Free plan in great detail. There's a lot of case studies. You'll love it. And then reach out to me. You can fill out a form if you need support. We would love to support you, and you could be a wellness champion just like this student that I shared with you today. So I'm going to let you guys go, and I just want you to have a wonderful week. So please do me a favor. If you found this to be absolutely amazing, please share this with other groups, share this with doctors. Let's get the discussions, positive and negative, let's get the discussions going. That's the only way things are going to change. And you can help spread the word so that we can change the way that not just multiple sclerosis, but the way that a lot of other diseases are being treated by treating the cause, not symptoms. So I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care and bye-bye for now.